Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Interview. My guest today is a professor of law, a seasoned administrator and an author. He's a fellow of a number of professional bodies, both within and outside Nigeria. You will be meeting my guest after this time out. I am Azizat Olanrewaju. I will be right back. Welcome back. My guest today is an educationist, a university don, and also an editor-in-chief. I am talking about the Vice-Chancellor of the Lagos State University, Professor Olanrewaju Adigun Fagboun. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, let's now dig into your past. How was growing up like?
Growing up was fun.
Okay.
Growing up was fun because I tell people that I'm actually a village boy, in the sense that I grew up partly in the village and in the town. We were living at Agege. My father was a teacher, and then my mother was working at the local government. Okay. And at the end of the day, you know, I tell people that I'm not a silver spoon, but one thing we had was the passionate love of our parents. I do remember on one occasion, I wanted a jacket. We went into a shop. And when we got inside that shop, there was a jacket that I fell in love with. My mother's salary could not buy the jacket. So she paid what she had with her for that 1 month, left the jacket there just to reserve it, and came back the following month to pay the balance for me to have that jacket. So that shows you the kind of love that they had. My father, I do remember when I was at University of Ife, there was this Black's Law Dictionary. The cost was 100 naira. I remember very well then. Wow. 100 naira was a huge sum of money, because by the time I started practicing, my salary was 350 naira. So you can imagine what it was when my father, in my part 1, bought a dictionary for me for 100 naira. I was one of the few in my class that had that dictionary. That was the kind of devotion that our parents had. And we were living more like, what will I say, in a hostel. And why do I say it's a hostel? Every child, because my father is a teacher, very strict disciplinarian. Every child that is troublesome in their home, they bring them to my father. Oh. And my father was raising all of us. Oh. So it's a case of, if one of us offends, every one of you will be sanctioned. But it was fun in the sense that we did not have the kind of situation of insecurity or people using other people's children for different purposes. We did not have that kind of thing at that time. We had a society where the way your father will discipline you is the way your neighbor will discipline you. And the moment they discipline you, you are praying that they should also not report that event to your parents. Because if they report that event, it will be double jeopardy for you. Your parents will not ask any questions. Your parents will give you further treatment in terms of discipline. That was the kind of thing. With the loving, strict nature of the upbringing you had, did you go through the normal, by saying normal now, I mean, were you adventurous? Were you, rascally in a way? I was very adventurous. Okay. You know, for me, I was the only male child in a family of 5 children. 4 sisters, 2 of them are late now, but my elder sister, Mrs. Keji Okwono, she's with the local government, and then Dr. Lola Akonde, She actually works with the General Hospital. Okay. Now, growing up, the way it was because I was the male child, I was always having fun at the expense of my sisters because they were very quiet. But I would, when our parents are out, I will go to the bicycle repairer. I will get a bicycle there and I will ride the bicycle to town where my parents must not know. I do remember there was a day a friend of my father saw me and called me, Larry. I did not answer. And I just continued speeding back with the bicycle because I wanted to get home before he comes over to our house to report. And I made up my mind that if he comes in, I will deny that I was not the one. You know, that was the kind of thing that I was doing. So
did he go to your house?
Well, when he saw me, and he said, I saw you earlier, I said I was not the one. The man was not too sure. The man looked at it that, I thought you are the one I saw. I said, no, uncle, I was not the one. Of course, by the time he came, I'd already changed my shirt. So that it was not the same thing I wore in the morning that I was wearing. You know, those kind of naughty things. I also remember when I was in the secondary school, one day we were coming in from the assembly and we were running, the first person to get to our class. And when I got to the door, instead of using my hand to open the door, I used my leg to hit the door. And then the door of our classroom just fell off.
Oh my.
When that happened, they reported us to the principal. There were two who were involved in that act. Our principal then, Mrs. M.K. Abayomi, fantastic woman, very tough cookie. So that day when I did that to the door, I just thought to myself that I'm finished. How do I do it? If I get home, my father will kill me. Our principal will not spare me. Then I thought to myself that maybe I should even jump in front of a car so that I will end it and not face the tribulations that will come with it. But lo and behold, when I got to the principal, the principal said, Fagboun, you were involved in this. I will let your father know what you have done. And you can be sure, after I've dealt with you, he will also deal with you. So the principal gave me a note and said I should go home. Gave the other boy to Agbola, gave him a note and said the two of us should go home. When we got home on that day, father read the letter and said, what happened? I explained it to him. He said, okay, I'll go to school with you tomorrow. He went with me to school. Of course, I was caned in the assembly, but my father did not do any other thing. So I was expecting that. So at a point, it became difficult for me to predict my father in terms of his response. When I think he will not react, he will react and thrash me so badly. And when I think he will react, that is when he will not react. But again, I found out that even those occasions when he reacts, you see my father buying, after about 3 days, he will go ahead and buy a present for me. He might just buy a rifle, a toy rifle, or a car, or something. He will buy it as a gift and give me. But I will say that because I was the only boy, I really enjoyed my mother a lot. Even though my mother is the kind of person, if I offend, she will report to my father because my mother will always say, oh, I will not allow you to come and destroy my life. The moment my father steps inside the house, my mother will say, neighbors have come to beg me. I don't want to destroy my life. Oh, of course. My father will say, Larry, meet me in the room. And of course, I know I will be disciplined.
Wow.
But even at that, you can see the love with which they were relating with us. So it was a marvelous upbringing I had. I had great friends. And all my friends that I had at the secondary school level, I still maintain them till today.
Do you have a nickname?
Some of my friends, they call me, I think, there were two names that they were calling me. One was calling me Olanrewaju. But I think the larger percentage, I can't remember that name very well, that the larger percentage was calling me. But one was calling me Olanrewaju. That was the kind of thing. All right,
tell me about your own immediate family. You're talking about your wife and your children. Where are they now, and how did you woo your wife?
Okay, my wife is actually in Shitabe. We met when my wife was here in school. She was a student here.
This institution?
Yes, she was a student in this institution. I came in as a very young lecturer. In fact, I remember at my interview when I was coming.
Oh, you were a lecturer then, when she was a student?
Yes, I was a lecturer when she was a student. I remember when my Professor Jadi Sola Akonde Professor Jadesola Konde was the Vice Chancellor then, and I went for the interview. And at the interview, one of the interviewers asked me and said, I hope you are not coming to have relationship with our students here. And Professor Jadesola Konde said, are you married? I said, no. He said, if he's not married, he's entitled to have his wife from the institution. So it does not matter if he's not married. So at the end of the day, my wife was not in my faculty. Okay. I went to greet a friend of mine, Professor Abubakar Momo, in the faculty. Then I saw her. So I said, this lady is, I think she looks very beautiful. And of course, she, for quite some time, it was on and off. It was like, no, I don't want to go and have anything to do with any lecturer. But eventually, we started dating. Okay. And that was how gradually, by the time she was through with her program, we got married. Okay, so how many children do you have? We have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. The 2 boys are in the university. Our daughter was more like an afterthought, Fikayo. Fikayo was more like an afterthought because the older brother is 20 now. Okay. The second one is 18, and Fikayo is 10. Oh, I see. So it was more like, you know, the kind of politics that women play. Because I felt with 2 boys, we are okay. But my wife's attitude was like, no, I still want to have a daughter. And eventually, I would say that, looking back now, I think I thank her a lot for allowing us to have a daughter. Because when my boys are busy watching Arsenal and the rest of them, it's my daughter that is always doting on me and looking after me. Wow. So, but it's been a beautiful one. Do you still have time to socialize now? You know, as I stated earlier, I'm a bit of an introvert. If I have to do something because of my official activities, as a social scribe, I had to do those activities, meet people, but the moment I do that, I get back into my quiet zone and I continue my activities. Right now, I can stay in my house, have my drink and everything without necessarily going out. All right, so what is your favorite meal? My favorite meal, I would say that I enjoy, okay, in stages. At the point, I was enjoying bread and beans a lot. When I was at Aba, during my youth service, I was doing 101. 101 is you eat in the morning, you don't eat in the afternoon, you eat in the night, because I was conserving my funds. So in the morning, that time, akpu became my favorite food. Out of necessity? Out of necessity, yes. Because I don't eat until around 11 o'clock. The woman knows me very well. I'll go to her restaurant. She knows the moment I come in, she'll give me my akpu. I'll ask her to mix up my ogbono and everything, mix them up. I will take that in the morning. Then when it's around 7, 8 o'clock, I'll have my dinner. So during that period, akpu became more like the food that I loved. Then later in the years, I think rice and beans became part of what I enjoy a lot. So rice and beans. Rice and beans, I would say rice and beans I eat that a lot now. Right. So yes. What kind of music do you listen to, and who is your favorite musician? If you talk about my favorite, I would say 2 of them. 2 of them, they occupy the same pride of place. King Sunny Ade and Commander Ebenezer Obey. I enjoy them a lot. So if I asked you to sing for me right now, which song would come to mind? If you ask me to sing for you, either of them will come to my mind. Okay, sing for me. Okay. Chief Ebenezer Obey. And I'll go for Kò sọ́gbọ́n tẹ́lẹ̀ dá, kò síwá tẹ́lẹ̀ hù, kò sọ́nà tẹ́lẹ̀ mọ̀, tẹ́lẹ̀ fi táyé lọ́rùn o. Then if I want to go for King Sunny Ade, I will say synchro system, ajo, bang, 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 you know, I enjoy them a lot. Then there's also an artist that I love so much because his music is very philosophical. Bó bá dọ́wọ́ alákọ̀wé, àṣìmáyọ̀ fáńdá kiri, bóṣù bá ti lóyún gbèsè, àrántí ọmọ ní gbúgbúrú gbúgbúrú pẹ̀rẹ̀rẹ̀, ẹ̀pà pẹ̀rẹ̀rẹ̀, gbúgbúrú pẹ̀rẹ̀rẹ̀, ẹ̀pà pẹ̀rẹ̀rẹ̀. You know, I enjoy his music so much because Tunji Oyelano, that is the artist. Right. Tunji Oyelano. I enjoy him so much because he's very philosophical. If you listen to his music, a lot of things you will learn. A lot of things. Okay, I still have some more questions for you, but I just have to go on a short break at this point. My guest on the show is Professor Olanrewaju Adigun Fagboun, the Vice Chancellor of Lagos State University. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Welcome back. My guest is still Professor Olanrewaju Fagboun, the Vice Chancellor of Lagos State University, and he's been talking to me about his life experiences so far. Thank you for staying with us on the show. Thank you very much. Now, you studied environmental law.
Yes.
Why that interest?
You know, I told you that I grew up more in the village. During my early years, my father, a teacher, my father was combining so many things together. My father would, after his regular school hours, he would go and take students during their lessons, those who are having challenges in meeting up. And when he's through with that, during the weekends, we'll leave Agege, where we're living, and come to our village, Akeson village, where my father is currently the traditional ruler. He's the king of the village. You know, he will come there. At that time, my father had farmlands, so we'll come and farm. And he was always bringing me. So I grew up with that, in that village setting. So I love nature a lot, which is why one of the things I ask, if I go to any country, I will ask, what is your natural, where do you have your natural vegetation? Or probably what kind of animals do you have around here that one can see? What kind of natural thing do you have? So that kind of drew me very close to nature. So at a point in time, when I started out my university career as a lecturer, I started out in the area of commercial law. I was teaching business law. I was teaching law of insurance. I started in 1991, and I was on and on with that till around 1994. Then we now had this vice chancellor, late Professor Enitan Bababumi, a fantastic man, brilliant man who had 2 patents in the United States. When Professor Bababumi came in, I remember we were at a faculty board meeting, and the vice chancellor naturally is the chairman of every faculty board, but most times he will not come. He's the dean that presides. But on this occasion, Professor Enitan Bababumi decided to come in. And when he was coming in, he came with his deputy vice chancellor then, distinguished Professor Peter Okebukola now. Okay. So yes, he was his deputy vice chancellor then. So the 2 of them came together to the faculty board, and the meeting was on. Of course, I was a very junior lecturer in the faculty. So at the point I wanted to say something, of course I was not recognized. My dean was not calling me. Nobody was calling me. The meeting was on. Then the VC just spotted me and said, "Hey, young man, you've been raising up your hand. What is it that you want to say?" And I just made the point. I've forgotten what the issue was about. I just made the point on that day. And he said, "That is brilliant. You'll be going with me to Legon next week to present a paper. You'll be going with me to Legon." That was how he just spotted me. And by the time he was through with that lecture, he turned to his deputy vice and said, "Peter, make sure that that young man is on the team to Legon." When we finished, they just called me and said I will be presenting a paper on criminal sanctions in aid of the environment. I've never done anything in this area. And they want me to go and present a paper at an international meeting. For 3-4 days, I did not sleep. I was reading, doing research, doing one thing or the other, just trying to familiarize myself, get a paper ready, because I was so scared. But I didn't want to fail them, that they repose so much confidence looking at me that young man, you have something to offer, come with us. That was what just changed my perspective, because I went for that international event, I presented the paper was well received, and that was what just became the turning point. Because in the course of working on that paper, I realized that it took me back to the nature, the natural life I was living when I said that I've been a village. I just realized that there's actually, because environmental law was new then. Environmental law was new. FEPA had just started their own activities. So a lot of things, that was the time of the cocoa toxic waste. So a whole lot of things were just unfolding. And that was how I keyed into it. And to the glory of God, I think I'm one of the foremost people that started work in that area at the end of it. So growing in that area became a regular thing for me. I started working through it. And by the time I was appointed one of the 18 globally acclaimed scholars to work in a particular area for the International Bar Association at a point, you know, it gave me so much satisfaction. that I was able to carve a niche for myself in an area of law that was just evolving at that time, and I was able to nurture myself through it. I'll tell you that during that period, I was sponsoring myself for a whole lot of programs, both within and outside Nigeria, trying to gain more knowledge. Okay. Because one of the things you find out if you're in the academia, one of the things you find out is that the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. So that is what puts so much burden on you. Yes, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. The more you realize that there's so much for you to learn. So you have to be aggressive in your search for knowledge. And that was the kind of thing that happened to me. Wow. And after some time, I found out that I became more or less an authority in the field, and the expertise was what they were inviting me now to come in and present papers, and then they start funding my trips. So I tell my younger colleagues now that don't wait and say it is only when you are sponsored. You must also invest in yourself.
You paid your dues.
You must invest in yourself, because at a time you will come to repeat. At a time you will be recognized. If you continue to work in that area, you'll be recognized in that area, and at that time they will now be funding you to come for such events. So that was one of the things.
All right,
yes.
So let's talk about your current position. When did you become the Vice Chancellor of LASU, and how easy or otherwise has it been directing the affairs of the institution?
I became the Vice Chancellor of the Lagos State University in January 2016. The exercise itself was a very rigorous process, because it had in place the selection committee of both the council and senate of the university. And I think we were originally about 17 who applied, and at the time they shortlisted to about 14, and 14 of us went in for the interview, and I came first at the end of the exercise. And pursuant to that, His Excellency the Governor of the state, Mr. Akinwumi Ambode, approved of my appointment as the Vice Chancellor. You know, before I left LASU, I was here for about 20 years. So I knew my colleagues here, and I knew my colleagues here are fantastic and amazing guys. Most of the students that we graduated, I knew they were amazing scholars. Yet there were challenges of incessant crisis that was facing the university. So I thought to myself that with the knowledge that I have of the institution, I believe I can come back and add some bit of value. I knew what we needed was to be able to manage our challenges. And I tell people that LASU is not as if LASU had a problem bigger than what it could handle with. It was just that we were not able to manage our challenges and our differences. So when I came in, one of the first critical things that I introduced to my colleagues is inclusive governance. Inclusive governance of ensuring that all of us, we take decisions together. We put in the committee system. You know, universities run through committees. We put in the committee system so that the committees were the ones working on different activities. In areas that will affect the interests of students, we will ensure that the students are also part of the solution. Because you don't shave a man in his absence. You cannot take a decision on the students in relation to something that concerns them without involving them. And that is why you find out that our students are greatly keyed into the vision of the university. If it is something that relates to staff, we have a conflict resolution team that will look into it and resolve it. And if it has to do with discipline, we follow the mechanisms of the university to resolve it. I would say that it has been a tasking and challenging work, but a very exciting one. Okay. And I've greatly benefited from the support of my colleagues. A lot. And I tell people, when people want to start ascribing success to me, I tell them that no, when you ascribe success to me, you are getting it wrong. It's a joint effort of all, because they bought into my vision. So the university is running on autopilot. Whether I'm on ground or I'm not on ground, the university runs. Everybody, they know what they have to do, and everybody is on it. So I tell people that I have greatly benefited from the support. By the time you look at the deputy vice chancellors I have, the principal officers that I have, the deans of the faculties, the provost of the college, everybody has been working together. The president of the student union, the president of the different associations, the different faculty unions, all of them, they work together. And that is why we have this very robust relationship that is now the Lagos State University.
Okay, any low moments in life so far?
There have been low moments. Low moments when, I told you that 5 siblings of my parents, we lost 2 of my sisters early in their years. Then the demise of my 2 sisters, I think, affected my mother. And in 2003, we lost my mother also. And of course, after the demise of my mother, Funke died. In terms of my own immediate family now, I know that we lost, when my wife gave birth to a daughter before Fikayo, and we lost her. Those were low moments for us. But by and large, I would say that Almighty Allah has been good to us as a family. Allah has been very benevolent to us. And we just must continue to show our appreciation and thank him for his grace and mercies.
All right, finally, what do you know now you wish you knew when you were younger?
There's something that I tell people, that no matter what you know now that you think you knew when you were younger, when you are younger, you will still act that way. And that is why we have a very personal relationship with our students at the Lagos State University now. We sit with them and talk to them and engage with them because they are young, their blood is flowing, they are robust in there. So they want to do 1,001 things at the same time. So it is just by gradual counseling. What you know now, there is no way you could have implemented it when you are younger, because you are different now than what you are when you are much younger.
All right, thank you very much for coming on to our show today, Professor.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's how the show will be for this week. My guest was Professor Olanrewaju Adigun, Fagboun, the Vice Chancellor of the Lagos State University. For inquiries and any other questions, send all of them to the Sunday Interview at tvcnews.tv. Until I come your way next week, I remain Azizat Olaoduwa. Bye for now.